I'm extremely excited to introduce you to Jaimie from the Queer Family Podcast. It is rebranded, it's new, it's fantastic, and you need to check it out. And if you haven't listened before, then I strongly encourage you to do so now. And so while I'm going to talk to Jaimie about their family's journey to creation and evolution to where they are now, I really first, Jaimie, would love for you to tell everybody who you are and more about the podcast, because you sell it well, and it is a fantastic resource for hopeful, new, expectant parents.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me too. I love being here. So just want to say that. So
Oh.
for all of you out there listening, I'm Jaimie. I am the host of the Queer Family Podcast. Used to be known as If These Overs Could Talk. We just headed into our 11th season. We have almost 200 episodes of stories about queer families, how we make them, how we show up in the world that wasn't necessarily designed for us. And we laugh a lot, and we also get really deep into like what makes family, basically. And I think we can all agree that love makes a family, especially in the LGBTQIA plus community. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I also have a voiceover career and things like that, but my big baby is this podcast. So that's who I am.
And I
Does
have
that
to
answer
say
your
that
question?
it totally answers my question. I love the podcast that you do in so far as how it offers everybody the platform to talk about how their journey unfolded. Even if they don't have children yet, they're talking about what their expectations are, what their hopes are, what their plans are. And um, I mean, we're so different than our cisgendered heterosexual peers who, for the most part, certainly not on all cases, but for the most part, just sort of assume that their journey will be a matter of, this is when we want to start to try, this is when we'll have our family, and not as much pre-planning necessarily feels like it needs to go into it. And your conversations with people who don't even have children yet really highlight just how much thought, planning, financial planning, as well as emotional planning go into the journey and decision making about what
Right.
steps people need to take.
Well, that's the thing. And that's the thing that I have really learned, that I've really taken home from these 200 couples that I've interviewed, and not just couples, all kinds of folks. We come in all many shapes and sizes
Mm-hmm.
in our families, but that there are so many questions to be answered, so many decisions to be made even before we start our process, because these making a baby when you're missing a part is a little bit complicated. And some of us sometimes in our queer community are not missing a part, but that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily mean we want to use our parts. So our family building journeys are complicated and different. And so we have to start thinking about them even
Mm-hmm.
way before we start the process. I mean, I've talked to folks who started thinking about it, in college. They knew they were gay, they knew they wanted to be a parent, or they knew they were queer and they knew they wanted to be a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And they started reading books. How am I going to do this? And realizing that oh, well, there's so many decisions to make. Do genetics matter to me? If genetics do matter to me, then how am I going to carry the baby? Do I need to get a donor? What kind of a sperm donor? Do I need an egg donor? Like all these,
Mm-hmm.
so many decisions go into this family making process before you even start the process.
Yeah.
And that's why the word intentional is thrown around a lot on our show. We are
Yeah.
extreme. We take the cake for intentional family.
You really
If you want to
do.
talk about intentional, that's us. That's
Yep.
us.
100%. 100%. And I really think that if we can talk to people when they're younger who think that someday they may want to start a family, one of the key things I think that they need to spend time thinking about is about finances and how they're going to pay for it,
Yeah.
because it isn't free. In our world, it isn't free to have a baby unless I happen to have a friend who's going to help me from down the street. But those cases are few and far between, truthfully.
Right. I mean, they do happen, and they do,
Sure.
there is intersectionality. There are folks who are more privileged than others. There are folks in our community who have the means to make the more expensive decisions, but there are some folks who don't have the options, and they
Mm-hmm.
get really, really creative in how they create their family. And it's beautiful. It's freaking beautiful. I say it all the time. It's so beautiful the way we create our families. But I just talked to a couple days ago that they didn't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of resources. They used a cousin. They used the cousin of the wife to get pregnant. They use, so we get, and there's Facebook groups now,
Oh,
and
sure.
there's all kinds of stuff. You got to be careful legally, and it gets dicey.
Mm-hmm.
There's another reason why we're so intentional. We
Yeah.
have to think through so many
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
so many.
It's so
Um,
true.
yeah, but you have to think about your finances before you start this journey. Because if you want to do the reciprocal IVF route and you're two people with uteruses and you can do it, then you got to think, do I have the money for this? How am I going to pay for this?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, insurance isn't there for us, really, yet.
No.
And, there are grants and things out there, but they're not necessarily for queer folks. So we don't get that much help, unfortunately. And we got to dig deep into pockets to come up with the funds for these. Like that happened to me and my wife. My wife went first. We knew we each wanted to carry.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she was older. She's 7 years older. So we thought, okay, she'll go first. So she goes first. We started with IUI, did like 5 rounds of IUI. This was covered by insurance miraculously.
Wow.
Yeah. And most of the meds were covered too for IUI. And then mid-cycle, in like the middle of the 5th IUI, her feet are literally in the stirrups. We're in the room and he's like, you know what? It's not working. Let's switch courses. Let's do IVF this round. And we're like, okay, sure. Just assuming, never assume with insurance.
Right.
Just assuming that if IUI was covered, obviously IVF is going to be covered. No, 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 no. And we didn't know. We went through we got ready. We got to the egg retrieval day. We're in she's got the gown on. No, she doesn't have the gown. We go in first thinking we're going to be taken straight to the room where she changes or whatever. They take us into an office instead and they slide a bill across the table at us. And it was $15,000 we were looking at. And we were like, whoa, 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 what?
Holy.
We didn't know. We didn't know, and then we had to luckily my wife is a teacher and has great benefits as a teacher. And we pulled the money out of her retirement when we were lucky enough to be able to do that. Took a loan against her retirement. But we had the means, lucky us, and we had to do that for my son as well, the second one. And we're still paying him off.
Yeah.
He's 5. But we paid my daughter off. She's 9. So that's done. But, so that's the thing. Like, so many things to think through. And there's so many unexpected bumps that come up with our families time and time again.
Yeah. It's so true. So tell us about the members of your family then. Who all lives with you?
Well, we have my wife, Anne.
Yeah.
And our daughter, who my wife gave birth to, Rose, is 9. And our son, who I gave birth to, is 5. Orion is his name. And then we have a dog who's neurotic and insane. And her name is Kira. And that's the name she came with from the previous owners. She's crazy. Love her. She's crazy. I mean, we have a house of crazy is what we really have.
Well, and that's just what most people strive to have, right? When they're creating their families.
Right, exactly. We're lucky. Really, we're lucky.
And you both ended up then using IVF as the means that you needed to use to conceive?
Well, actually, that IVF round worked for Anne, and Rose was born from an easy pregnancy 9 months later. And then when it came my turn, we started when Rose was 2, because we wanted them to be, we started when Rose was 18 months trying with me. We wanted them to be like 2 or 3 years apart. I had some crazy unexplained infertility for 3 years. Couldn't get pregnant, didn't get pregnant. So we did IVF, we did IUI, we ran the gamut. We did it all. We started with IVF because we only had like 3 vials of our donor sperm left. So the doctor was like, let's just, let's get the best chances. Let's do it. So we took out the loan. We did the thing again. And it didn't work. And then we switched to IUI. I had to bring the donor out of retirement. You can do that at the sperm bank because he had been retired by that point. But if there's a sibling that was born to a donor, you can reach out to this particular bank. It was California Cryobank, and ask them to reach out to the donor and say, there's a sibling, they want to have another one. Would you come back for that? But you have to agree to buy all of the vials
Oh,
that he produces in order to do that. He said, yes, we made vials. We bought the vial. We didn't buy all of them though. They didn't monitor that. So we bought a good amount and we left some in there.
yeah.
Don't tell California Cryobank.
My lips are sealed.
And then there's that added cost too that we weren't
Sure.
expecting. And then, so it was like I did over 20 IUIs. I did 2 IVF retrievals, 3 IVF transfers, nothing stuck. And then finally, at around 2.5 years in, I changed doctors because the doctor kept saying, well, I look at this like a science experiments. If something's not working, you change the formula. So he kept saying, maybe you need an egg donor, maybe you need something else, maybe you need maybe you should switch your sperm donor. And I was like, nope, that's not the plan.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to get pregnant somehow. I knew. And so I said, okay, something needs to change. I guess it's you. So I didn't say it like in that like me way. I'm too nice, but we just switched doctors. And then I got pregnant randomly, miraculously on the second IUI with that doctor. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
And because you had gone from IUI to IVF, with your wife and then IVF to IUI, was IUI covered again for you when you went that route for yourself?
Yeah, it was the same insurance. So IUI was covered. It's just the IVFs that were not covered. And of course they don't pay for sperm.
No. That's our gift to bear. In here in Canada, we have, in the province of Ontario, at least, we have a lottery system that you can sign up for, and hopefully you'll have one round of IVF covered.
Right.
So most people that I know that are part of our community who think that they want to have a baby put their names on the list, but some care teams actually say you have to have X number of failed IUIs before they'll put you on the list. And there's just so many hoops to jump through.
So many.
Yeah.
The never-ending story of hoops.
Yeah. And it's disheartening because at the end of the day, we're not asking for anything that anyone else doesn't necessarily have the opportunity to have. We just want to have a family. We just want to grow our families and become parents and raise human beings to be the best people that we can make them be and help them be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're doing our best over here.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any words of caution that you would share with the 2S LGBTQIA plus community regarding the experience you had?
My big thing that I always say when I'm talking about my journey and what I went through, trust your gut, listen to your gut, listen to your inner voice, because something told me from the get-go for me that doctor wasn't right. Something was telling me the entire time, find someone else, but I didn't.
Right.
And then when I finally did, it worked. I don't know. Who knows why it worked, you know what I mean? But I feel like that was a factor for me, and I should have trusted my gut from the start.
Yeah. That's big.
Yeah.
That's big. And we spend most of our lives being told, especially as members of the community, because we're told, well, that can't be how you feel. That can't be who you love. That's not the way that it goes. And so, okay, so am I wrong? We're not used to listening to our gut and following our instincts.
Right. And he knew how to get me pregnant, so I was going to listen to him,
Right. Because he had what you wanted. He had the service. Exactly. He couldn't perform, but he had the service that you wanted.
Yeah. And and then also, now that I've spoken to so many other families about how they've done it, there's so many paths. we were afraid to try. We had toyed with the idea of a known donor.
Mhm.
And I think I would have loved trying at home insemination, but there was no way we were going to try that. We just didn't know. We didn't know how to do it. We didn't know how to go about it. And so I think really, like, before you start it, explore all these avenues in your brain and think,
Mhm.
would I like to try that? Because, you could try it at home. If it doesn't work, you can switch.
Mhm.
Unless you well, there's also the sperm factor, and like, there's
Yeah.
lots of factors, but I don't know. Do your research and find the path that really feels the best for you. And by
Mhm.
research, I mean listen to this podcast, listen to my podcast, read the book. You know what I mean?
The whole thing, all of it,
Yeah.
all the things. Yeah.
Because 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, when we started with my daughter, this didn't exist. None of this was out there. There were no podcasts about queer families.
No. No.
None. There were no books that I knew of.
Yeah.
Things have changed in 10 years. We
Sure.
haven't gotten where we need to be, but things definitely have changed. There are resources out there. And
Mhm.
so you can find things that can help you kind of navigate these decisions and hear from other folks who have walked the paths before you. I think
Mhm.
that's really important, being able to see yourself mirrored back in stories around you, in people around you. And that's why representation matters so freaking much. And that's why, like, when I was going through the infertility, as you do when you're going through infertility, trying to get pregnant and it's not working, you get a little lonely, you get a little sad. And
Mhm.
I started looking for I wanted to hear my story mirrored back to me. I wanted to hear from other
Yeah. Yeah.
lesbian moms who were trying to get pregnant and couldn't. And I was looking in the podcast world because I couldn't find any books about. I didn't know of any books. As
Yeah.
I was looking in podcasts, and I would find there's so many podcasts about fertility. There were so many podcasts about infertility, right? But it was always so heteronormative. It was always about straight people. They
Yeah.
always talked about how the husband had a hard time going to the fertility doctor and like things that just don't pertain to me. Like I
Right.
don't, right? Like, and then it always turned to Jesus, and that's not my thing. No,
If it
no
works for
shade
you,
if that's
great,
your
but
thing. Great. If that doesn't work for me, that doesn't help me. I don't want you to tell me how your faith in God helped you get pregnant. That doesn't help me. That's not my
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And so I just I couldn't find my story anywhere. And that's why I created the podcast. That's why the podcast came about, because somebody needed to tell these stories. I knew at least a full season's worth of lesbian moms that I could bring in for at least a season. So I was like, listen, let's do this.
Yeah.
I didn't know it would take off like it did, but like that's why it started, because there was a need for it.
Mhm.
Um, and everybody wants to hear their stories mirrored back to them. They want to see that it's possible. They want to you just want to see yourself out there. Representation matters. And we're not represented enough in mainstream at all. Still today. It's ridiculous.
No.
Yeah.
What, and that's just it. I'm thinking about when my wife's and my stepdaughter was young and we couldn't find families
Mm-hmm.
to hang out with that look like ours. We
Mm-hmm.
have some incredible friends in our world, but there weren't other families that look like ours. So this kid's now got three moms because that's let's just ante up a bit and give her three moms and no dads. And you know it, who does she turn to say, oh, that's what my family looks like, your family looks like mine? And it's not in books, it's not. Sure, there were the Rosie O'Donnells and Melissa Etheridges of the world who we knew had kids,
Right.
but you didn't hear their stories. Even though
Mm-mm.
you knew that their families existed, you didn't hear their stories. So
Nobody was asking because that question's taboo, right? Like on
yeah.
talk shows, that was a taboo question. They're not going to ask. So how'd you pick David Crosby as your donor? You know what I mean? They
Right.
didn't ask. There were just jokes made in
Yep.
on the DL
Yeah.
about what he is to them, and but nobody ever thought, let's just find out and ask, because you might see some freaking beauty in
Yeah.
what you find out. You might
Yeah.
see a really beautifully made, intentional family,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they don't
And to
ask.
hear him talk about it, he was so proud to be able to do that for his friends because he knew that that was something that they needed to be able to have the family that they dreamed of having. And so why not honor that and celebrate that? Because what a gift, right?
Truly. But I remember when that happened and it was such a scandal. Do you remember
Mhm.
like the news stories? How it was just made fun of.
Yeah,
The tone was not the right tone for it at all, you know? So, and then that makes you afraid to talk about your family,
100%.
right? So
100%.
we've come a long way, but we've got a long way to go because what I hear all the time, like we've been around 11 seasons, 200 episodes. We have sh- TV networks we've shopped TV shows. Like we've been
Mhm.
around. And what we hear time and time again from especially these TV execs, producers, it's just niche. You're just so niche. It's just a niche topic. Or somebody said to us, our audience just isn't ready for this. Queer families. Our audience just, they're not ready for, what do you mean?
Yeah.
It's 2020. It was 2022. It's 2022. What do you mean we're
Mhm.
not ready for this? Have you looked around at the world?
Yeah.
We're everywhere.
Yeah.
How is your audience not ready? It makes me angry.
Oh, and I
I'm
was
on a
gonna say,
mission
yeah,
to normalize this shit.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I fully agree. You're right. We're 2023 now, and it's if you aren't comfortable with it, then that's on you, not on me. So buckle up.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I came out of that one meeting. That was the last meeting I had with actually a producer, and I came out pretty like fired up. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna push this out even harder now. Here
Yeah,
we go.
100%. 100%. Fully get that.
But it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard when you're told all the time you're so niche, you're small. It's just a small part of the world. No, it's not. It's
It's
not. We're
it's really
everywhere. I
not.
also personally think that like everybody's a little bit queer. That's my own little thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If they just don't know it yet. Yeah.
Just don't know
That's what
it.
my wife says to me. Yeah. Oh, they're gay. They
Come
just
over
don't know
to
it yet.
come over to the golden side. It's lovely over here.
That's right. All of the sunshine, all of the rainbows. I mean, all of the
Gorgeous.
rainbows.
All of it. All of it. Every color. We got it. We're
Yep.
beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Outs with I mean, and I was gonna ask you about being othered in the process, and certainly just that conversation with, TV executive suggests that there was a lot of othering happening. When you and Anne were creating your family and walking down the street, and one of you is clearly expecting, were there times that you were made to feel like you were the other, or did you feel like the world was a fairly okay, safe environment for you through that?
Well, I think it's kind of twofold. I mean, first of all, we live in New York City. We live in a bubble that is very safe for us.
Right.
Um, that doesn't mean we don't get biased against us from here and there. It's very
Mhm.
covert, though. You know, we've been mistaken for sisters. We've been mistaken for mother and daughter, which is not a fun thing at all. And you know, nothing, nothing outward, nothing like really in our faces. No, but there's also my internalized homophobia
Sure.
that still shows up to this day, right? Like I still get nervous to hold hands in public with my wife. I still get nervous anytime we're in public, anytime we kiss hello or goodbye. In the back of my head, I'm like, oh my God, who's watching? Like that's still very much there in my head.
Mhm.
So there's that. And so I'm very conscious of the fact that I show up in the world as a gay woman. Um, I can pass. Like if I'm not with my wife in the past before kids, I could just pass, like the
Mhm.
the taxi driver would ask, you going to see your husband or your boyfriend, and you can choose in the moment. Am I going to like out myself to this random taxi driver, or am I going
Yeah.
to let him think whatever he wants, right?
Yeah.
Um, but when kids come into the picture, you can't do that anymore. You
No.
can't you have to like correct them because the kids are right there listening. The kids
Yeah.
are, and you want your kids to be raised with pride in their families, and you don't want them to feel like you have any kind of shame or worry about how you show up in the world because you want them to be happy with who they are.
Mhm.
And so if the taxi driver asks if I'm going to see my boyfriend, I have to say, no, I have a wife. They have two moms, and that's hard and
Yeah.
scary. You get better at it as time goes. And then, as you probably know, the kids start outing you to random people.
Yeah.
Like there was this one time we were sitting, and I'm always like more wary of outing myself to older folks who
Mm.
of a different generation. I'm like gentle, I'm gentle. I don't want to shock anyone with my gayness. It's ridiculous. But like we were sitting next to this older woman, and this older woman said to my daughter, to me and my daughter, "Oh my God, if you don't have the same face." And my daughter goes, "That's so funny because she didn't born me." She was like 4.
Yeah.
And the lady looked at us confused. And Rose and I had like a little chuckle to ourselves and like moved on our way. But like they start to out you. They
Yeah.
start to be like, that's not, I don't have any genetics with this one. They think it's funny.
Yeah.
Because we talked to them about it. They know all about it.
And
Um,
as they should, as they
and
should,
they
because
have a
then you can
lot
ask
less,
questions.
yeah, and they have a lot less shame about it than we do because
Mhm.
we're raising them to not have any shame over it and to teach them that this is just normal,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean we don't still harbor all
Yeah.
that shame from our childhoods that was
Mhm.
instilled in us.
Yeah.
Even I grew up in San Francisco. I grew up in a gay city and it's inside me, you
Yeah.
know? Um, so there's that. I feel like I'm just taking your questions and rambling and taking them other places. So feel free to
No,
get
but
me
it's
back on track.
but no, but
I
you
do.
but you speak a very honest piece that, regardless of how we feel, as long as we can make our children understand and feel from the very beginning that they are wanted, that they are loved, that their world is safe and normal, then that's what they grow up understanding. And that helps for us to diffuse some of our own, as you say, internalized homophobia, because we see them coping so well. And we realize that the challenge isn't with the fact that we're gay, the challenge is with the people who told us that it wasn't okay.
Right.
And it's not our problem anymore. And I think that's
Snaps. Yes.
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it makes it easier for us to go, all right, this is okay. We're on the right path. We're doing the right thing, and we're doing okay by them. We're not hurting them in any way. And I think that that's why it feels so, they just get it. They just think, okay, well, there are people who are gay, there are people who are queer, the people who are not, there are people who are born in the body they're supposed to be in, and people who are not, and it's all just okay. It's all just normal. And so then when you go and speak with a TV executive that says that's niche, and you're like, hold the phone. Have you looked around? Have you actually talked to people? Because even my kids can tell you that that's just, you're not right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for this generation to take over because
Right.
it's different. It's definitely different. I mean, the shame and the homophobia is still out there, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there are many, 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 many young folks who are going to change the world. I really hope going to change the world for the better
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Worse for those homophobes, but better for us.
For us. And really that's all that matters.
That's really all that matters.
I put together and I started doing these conversations, recording these conversations because I went to a baby show. Somebody said to me, why don't you do a baby show for queer folk? And then, well, okay, let me go to a baby show and see what's out there, because it's been a while since I used my uterus for that purpose. And so I went through the baby show, and there was one vendor. First of all, it was everybody, only people only trying to sell stuff. And I thought, nah, that's not what my community necessarily needs. We all know how to order off Amazon these days. We're golden. But one vendor selling their service that had a small pride flag in the back of their booth, and I started talking to them and discovered that they're part of the community. And then I'm thinking, well, why is your flag not out further? But looking around at every vendor that I spoke to, all the people that were there, it was really very much targeting the cisgendered heterosexual community.
Mhm.
And I thought, like I say, we can all figure out where to buy diapers and onesies, but we need more people telling their stories so that those who want to go down this path have a safe space to do so. And then when I talk to different people putting together different organizations and events for our community about family planning, then I found out that the people that they were having come in as guest speakers and experts weren't part of the community. And thought, I think we're missing something here. If we can't even find someone to be a spokesperson on a topic that is actually living everyday life as a
Yeah.
member of the 2S LGBTQA community, then where have we failed? Because we need to hear our own voices in all of this, whether they're professionals like financial planners or surrogacy lawyers or obstetricians or lactation consultants. It was all of these different professionals I was speaking to and thinking, you're all part of the community. Come, let's have people hear your voices, because you know where the microaggressions are, you know where the forms that you scratch out dad's name and you put partner or
Yeah.
other mom or whatever you put in that space. And like we have to address the microaggressions head on so that we can actually have a platform from which to stand and speak the story, right?
Yeah. And change the system and like force these organizations and clinics and all the things involved to not just like not front
Mhm.
the inclusion, but actually walk the
Yeah.
walk, right? Like don't put a queer couple on your website and say you're queer friendly, and then have me come in there and have to fill out a form and cross out father.
Yeah.
Like, change your forms. If you're really inclusive, you have to do the work. You got to go to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need to talk to folks like us who can help you do the
Right.
work, because we
Because
know.
we're willing to do that. Most of us are willing to spend some time and go through a form or whatever it is to help educate for the people coming behind us. And
Yeah.
ultimately, that's, I guess, the other idea with this talking to you today and recording this for people to listen to, is that those who are coming behind us have the stories of someone to listen to who's been there, and the wisdom. Like that's the journey, right? We
Right.
learn from history, so
Mhm.
let's give them good history to learn from.
Right. Truly. And so that's why these stories are so important, and they
Yeah.
need to be blasted out even wider.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that we're not everywhere, like that we're not seen, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. We will be everywhere. Just so everyone listening knows, we will be everywhere.
We're
You
working
won't
on
be
it.
able to turn your head without seeing Jaimie and Sam.
Yeah, there we go. That queer agenda is on its way. You better
That's
watch out. Here we
roll
come.
that out.
We're coming with our rainbows and our triangles. Not
Oh,
messing.
yeah, all of the things, all the things. What is your very, very favorite part of parenting?
Oh my God. It's easier if you ask me what I hate the most. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Listen, I love my kids with obviously to death, and they also drive me really freaking crazy. Um, God, I don't know. I just love them.
Yeah.
I don't even know what my favorite part of parenting is. It's just loving on those little human beings. They're
Mhm.
just so precious. They're
Yeah.
miracles. Every single eh, this podcast has shown me in so many ways that every single conception, every single one, no matter how easy it was, is such a miracle.
Yeah.
It's insane
Yeah.
that it works, especially when you see how hard it is sometimes to make it work. Then it's like,
Right.
oh my God, this
Yeah.
piece has to be in right time, right place. It's like magic.
Yeah.
And so I just love just being with them and experiencing their miracleness. I mean, when they're not driving me crazy and I'm not yelling at them to put their
Sure.
shoes on and we're 25 minutes late for school, all that stuff. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're just so precious. They're so precious.
It is that, isn't it? I love that feeling when you just look at them and you get that feeling in your heart, like, oh, these are my people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
these are my people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's mostly when they're sleeping, but
Yeah, you stand in the doorway of the room and like, "Oh, aren't you precious and cute and quiet and still?"
yeah. No, like when they hug you and
Yeah,
you know, it's just I don't know. It's all of it. It's all of
yeah,
it and none of it. That's parenting. It's the
yeah,
hardest job on earth. It's so hard.
yeah,
But it's also the most rewarding
for
because
sure.
just precious little beings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it's a very vague answer. It's not the
No,
best
no, but I think I totally get it.
answer. It's really not a good answer, but that's okay. I'm a mom of a 9 and a 5-year-old. Listen, I'm lucky I'm here right now. I'm lucky I have socks on my feet. I don't
I
know.
was gonna say, well, I was gonna say pants on, right? But
Right.
we're recording we only from the waist up. I can't see, but so she may know how. Maybe that's why she said maybe that's why she said socks. But
Yeah, I didn't get the pants on today.
yeah,
I'm
no,
lucky I showered. Like, I mean, it's a whole there's a list.
right?
There's
It's
a
true.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But was it as good as it unfolded for you and Anne? Was it as good as you expected it was going to be becoming a parent? Was it better?
Um,
Was it worse? I mean,
it's
there are always
different.
going to be times that are better and worse, harder and easier, but overall,
It was different. I would say it was just different. I think that I had no idea what I was in for. You can never know what it's like until you're doing it. And I think that goes for everything. But like when it comes to parenting,
yeah.
I had, I can only speak from me, but I had these ideas of what my kids were going to be like and what I was going to be like as a parent. And, I was going to be like Mama Earth and like so patient and all. I had all these ideas. And I was one of those judgmental young people who would see like a mom losing it with their kids before I had kids and be like, oh my God, they just must not talk to their kids. Like I had these ideas. It's ridiculous. And then I became a mother and am I allowed to swear? Because I already have.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Holy shit. I am not the mother I thought I would be at all.
Yeah.
The amount of times I lose it on the street with my children, I get the looks from the young ladies on the
Yes.
street. And I want to be like, you wait, you just wait and see. They push your
That's
buttons, lady. They push your buttons. Like I
yeah.
it's different than I thought it would be. Is it rewarding? Absolutely. Is it
Yeah.
hard? Absolutely. But it is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. And it's the most important thing I've ever done in my life that I'm
Yeah.
doing in my
Yeah.
life. But it's different. And your
Yeah.
kids come out. This is something they don't tell you. You're gonna have this little baby. You think it's just gonna be this baby you mold and you create the person. No, 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 no.
Mm-mm.
These little suckers, they come out. I was gonna say a different word, but I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They come out, the human beings that they are. They come out with personality. You,
Hmm.
you have to kind of work with who they are. That's not what
Right.
I was not prepared for that.
Right.
And so I have become the mother that my children need, as
Yes.
opposed to my kids being the kids that I needed or I thought
Right.
I needed, right? They're not the
Ah,
kids I thought
yeah.
I have become the mother that my children need. And it's different for each of them,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
They are their own unique human beings with their own
Yeah.
personality, their own likes, their own frustrations, their own tempers.
Yeah.
And I have had to adapt
Yeah.
myself to fit them. That's what I wasn't prepared for. And that's what was the biggest shock. Like, oh
Hmm.
my God, this isn't what I thought it would be. And it's not. It's never gonna be.
Yeah.
Right. But it's still super rewarding. And I'm learning so much just because they're little a-holes.
No, but they teach us so much, right? Sometimes they teach us new swear words, but
Mhm.
sometimes they teach us different levels of compassion too. So
Yeah.
they teach the
There was
good and the
that
bad.
time my daughter, this is just totally off subject, but that's what I do. My daughter, when she was like 4, started using the F word, but she like, I don't, she must have heard one of us say, we swear every once in a while, but she started using it, but she would like conjugate it. So she was using it in many different ways. So she like, one day I was pregnant. One day she came home and she goes, she goes, Mama, you're still pregnant? Oh, fuck, it's going to be a long day. She said that. Then she goes, then we're waiting. We're trying to get a cab on the street. I'm waiting. And she goes, Mama, why there's no fucking cabs?
Oh, Jesus.
And then the best one, she's comes home and she goes, oh, Mama, I forgot to go to the toilet. That is so fuck. And this is why it's so amazing, because then you can't laugh because you can't let them know
No,
that that's funny. It's not funny, but you can't react at all, because if you react at all, they're gonna continue to use that word.
100%.
But that is one of my favorite stories about Rose. Her
Yeah.
conjugation of the word fuck. I'll
Yeah.
never. That will go down in history. That will be the story I tell at her wedding.
Yeah.
Whoever she decides to marry, or they, or if.
Yeah. My eldest had one like that. Decided one day that wanted their other parent, was walking down the hall, saw their other parent on the computer doing something on the computer, and figured that it was the fault of the computer, that they weren't getting the attention that they deserved. So walks up and goes, "Fucking computer." I was like,
That's him.
kind of, yeah. Kind of, yeah, I get that.
They're so cute. They're precious. They're
Yeah.
precious. Even when they're swearing, they're so precious.
Right. Right.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It has been truly a wonderful, wonderful day to have the opportunity to chat with you and have you tell your story to the people that are listening, and to continue to grow the information for those who come behind us who need to hear our stories.
Agreed. Same. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun chatting. Yeah. So happy to be here. And I hope everybody tunes in. I hope, we're a part of a family now, so we're connected.
Right. Right. We're just a hair away from being blood related, I think now, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
We're all in the queer family. And we're going to highlight, uplift, and normalize all the families, all the queer families.
All of them. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jaimie. I really appreciate it.